annual events or events that are cast in stone, that are strategic, and that we can relate to the policy questions. Say like, I don't know, maybe an annual, I don't know what activities are lined up in the calendar annually.
That is the Teachers' Day.
Yes, like the World Teachers' Day.
We also have music, dance, and drama.
On the work plan, on the Ministry of Education's work plan, there must be specific events that are planned through the year. And probably, say, the Day of the African Child, or
education sector review.
Education sector review. So probably this is generic, but if we had specified.
I just want to tell you that we have annual events for music, dance, and drama, where schools compete at lower levels. They compete at lower levels, starting with the inter-school, inter-class, inter-color, inter-district, until eventually the winners come to the National Theatre. Some of you are parents, you've attended this. It is an annual event, but nutrition has not been featuring. We are now saying with the income of NIPN, if that also featured, it would be one of the greatest advocacy and also implementation action that will make everybody take on the issues of nutrition. It is there.
Yes. So what I think, Madam, what she's trying to raise, if you have those, that one is noted. If you have others, we also bring them out. For example, if there is a national debate,
National Teachers' Day.
National Teachers' Day, they could also be part of the event.
So we shall mention.
Yes.
It's Ministry of Education and Sports, right? But everything on that chart, everything on the presentation is bent on the education bit of it, and I don't see anything on the sports bit of the ministry. And I'm wondering, I think nutrition somehow affects the sports bit of people, and I'm not seeing it being presented. Maybe it's limiting the gold medals that we win in a way, that can help.
You are correct. I was telling the group that as a curriculum, all our schools are supposed to have physical education as part of the nutrition development. But it's not being done.
You have a policy on that.
It is a policy because once it is in the curriculum, we would like to make sure that when we go, every school has a timetable for children at all levels to go for physical education. But it is not being done. So we discussed. Thank you, Madam, for waking us up. We shall try. After all, we have a policy and the group. Requirements and minimum standards for education institutions.
That is
it includes nutrition.
Yes. Is it under review? Where is it?
No, it is even gazetted.
Yes, now this is
operational.
Yes, these fizzy drinks we see people taking to school on visitations.
Yeah.
Where do they fit sodas?
So
we are culprits here.
Yeah, you will get the basic requirements and read.
Yeah. So what we are trying to say here, Madam, is if it's already gazetted and it's clear, maybe NIPN could come in to support its implementation with implementation papers. For example, how tracking some of the implementation and all that.
Yeah, somebody in the group was telling us, I think him, that you see, they go, they find, because of poor storage, the maize has weevils. And he reminded me, we went to a school in the West and we asked the boys, did you have good meal lunchtime? He said, yeah, we had posho and beans with certain... No, he was saying there were certain good, meaning there were certain additions on it. And he was meaning with the weevils. So that's why we needed the basic requirements, because it addresses those.
Thank you so much.
I keep reminding the group here that NIPN is all about using existing data. Now, it could be a good research, in fact, like, what you guys are discussing about storage of those maize and, because of the, I think maybe with the agriculture sector, the role of aflatoxin for stunting is very much strong, the association. But in this country, I don't know how much research has been done in that area. So those are like, areas could be explored. But my question is related to question number 1 and 4 in the policy relevant question. And again, I would blame here Patrick, not presenting the detailed guideline. Because all the groups are not coming up with the, a specific question. The second and third question is not a research question, sorry, policy question here. This is more like an indicator to ask. Percentage of schools which provide a school prepared meal. If there is an indicator, then you can just get the information and answer. So that's not a policy question. And same with the third question. Number of schools with functional school nutrition committee. Again, it's a monitoring system related indicator, process indicator. This can't be policy. But then for 1 and 4, I would start with 4. In my opinion, or in my understanding, maybe Dr. George would clarify, in this country right now, there is not a policy or program to provide bi-weekly iron supplementation to adolescents. If the country has not even started, how are we talking about the impact? That's my opinion, understanding. If it is not true, then maybe he would clarify. But if the country has not something started, and we are already asking about the impact of that program, so again, that question is not very much valid here. Now, effect of school feeding on performance. I heard the more specific questions that they want to answer through that question, but it should be very specific in that question itself. When you are talking about improving the dropout rate, improving, I don't know, you're talking about, you're presenting about different areas. So that should come in the policy question itself.
But explain a little bit. You are saying NIPN is only going to support us on existing data. On existing data. For us, we thought NIPN was coming to help us to do even that which was inevitable but has not been done. That's where we need a
Now, the clarification is this. NIPN, Madam, you came later, but you've been around in NIPN for long. You should be the one to answer this question. Now, what is the issue is, NIPN, as we've shared in the morning, it came in after realizing there is a lot of information and data out there that has not been pulled together to help answer policy questions and all that. And the the first given for NIPN is to use existing data. That's why we are asking, when the question is raised, where is that data set? Like now, effects of school feeding on school performance. If it's a question to be done, then we need to look at the data sets at UBOS. What information is available that relates performance to school feeding? What is available? Should we find some data is there and a little data is missing, then we could commission a small study to fill in the data gap. I think we talked about it in the morning. But the primary thing is using secondary data. Now, we know you have an information management system at your ministry.
Yes.
Through that, we may also have to check how much data you have collected. And we use that and add whatever other data sets, maybe at UNICEF or whatever. But we are also saying, in the future, after some years, it may evolve depending on the donors and more data could be collected. But the question is, should that be done before exhausting the data, which is the second that is available? So all those are open. So the issues, we put the question there. He says it's not specific enough. I agree. Through the PAC, we shall refine it until it gives at least an indication of. Now, the last point, we know there is a government has been talking about school feeding. I don't know whether you have a policy on school feeding.
We have.
Now, the issue is, it's under review or what?
This is there, said complete.
It's complete.
Yeah, I even have a copy here.
Yes.
I think you should take a copy with you.
Thank you so much. So now the issue is, we need to look at that, maybe look at the implementation of that policy, and look at how far is it implemented before we even go to relating performance to the school feeding. The other preliminary policy questions we can raise to that. But at PAC, since you are a member of the PAC, we shall talk about it again. Thank you. And we go to agriculture.
We looked at the strategic activities under specifically one area of biofortification, and I think someone from the ministry could give just a brief background on maybe how the biofortification is done in these 15 districts and maybe 1,500 schools. Where is the member?
That is your
Some people have gone.
That's what he has already.
We are here. So anyway, yes, he gave an introduction that biofortification is done in about 15 districts and in more than maybe, 1,500 schools are maybe consuming biofortified products. Okay, products from the biofortified seeds, if I should say. But, well, what support do we need as a ministry from NIPN? One, we need maybe help on data analysis or info sheets on the coverage of biofortification. So we need to know who grows them, where are they grown, what's their production, productivity, and all the related things in terms of coverage. Then we need to know from NIPN still, from the data analysis unit, and maybe we could have an info sheet showing the marketability of the seeds and the products. We are talking about biofortified seeds. Then the accessibility, can they be easily accessed by those who want to grow them? The utilization, are they actually growing them? And then affordability, if you go to the market to buy seeds to plant, are they affordable compared to the ones which are not biofortified? And then the other thing we're looking at was the acceptability of the biofortified. I think we meant seeds, not the food. Well, but we can as well look at the food. So if we say we are advocating for the biofortified seeds to be grown, so when their products are in the market, are they actually acceptable community-wise? Do people want to actually buy them compared to the ones which are not biofortified? And then, yes, like we said, if we look at maybe acceptability and affordability and utilization, we'd want to know the level of awareness in the public about the biofortified seeds and the products as well. And yes, like we said, the data analysis unit or NIPN in general should really help us come up with this help or this level of maybe analysis. Then we're also looking at the impact of the biofortified foods on nutrition outcomes. Like we said, if the 1,500 schools are consuming the biofortified foods, so we want to know what is the impact on their nutrition. Of course, the question here would be, is the data available? Yes, we are actually discussing and saying, if there is the annual agricultural survey, is it actually covering the biofortification? We'd want to know and understand. If those questions can be answered by the annual agricultural survey, it would be of great help. And then we would want the NIPN also to help us on the data, with the data for development of biofortification strategy. So like we're discussing, there are just a few crops that are biofortified. We talked of maize and the sweet potatoes, but we'd want biofortification to go beyond just those few crops and maybe have many more biofortified. So if we could get like more data to advocate for more crops to be biofortified, maybe from data analysis through NIPN, it would be of great help. And then the next question, that was question one on the strategic activities for biofortification. So our next question was on relevant policies on nutrition. So we looked at the nutrition policies under the Ministry of Agriculture, and we managed to highlight 3 of them. There's a seed policy, and the status of this policy is basically that it has been endorsed, and so it has been launched as well. So that's why I said completed means it has been endorsed by Cabinet, and it has been launched. So the comment is that it is yet to be disseminated. There is also the fisheries policy. It's been endorsed. It is awaiting launch and dissemination. Then there is the meat policy and strategy, still in the draft form. Yeah, the rest will come later. Question 3, the nutrition policy relevant questions. Basically, our questions were derived from our strategic activities. So we are looking at one of the policy relevant questions. We want to know what's the impact of biofortified food consumption on nutrition outcomes. If we are saying maybe there are those 1,500 schools consuming biofortified foods, what could be the impact on their nutrition outcomes? Are their levels of anemia maybe higher or lower because they are consuming fortified foods? Would want to know if the data allows us to do so. So what is the level of awareness on biofortified seeds or foods in Uganda? So through the annual agricultural survey, we'd want to understand, do actually people know about biofortification or not, or what's the level of awareness? And then maybe the third question is there a database of different recipes for feeding children above 6 months? Because we've been talking about feeding children above 6 months, supplementation, but are these mothers aware of the different recipes they can feed their children on? So that is all from our group. Any questions?
This seed policy, fish policies and all that, I thought there could even be more. There are more. Now, maybe we should we request that when you go back you can take some assurance?
Yeah. Why we didn't do that? Because all agriculture policies, which are around maybe 100 of them, they would still be addressing nutrition. So it's a basic of choosing which one is so. Okay. Yeah. Because everything in agriculture is about nutrition.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. For our own policy mapping process, we may request that you send
All
us
of
that
them.
information.
Yes, I can give you all of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would be very, very important, and once we understand every status of each, like for example, in agriculture extension, we would want to know maybe can agriculture extension workers also do some nutrition education or whatever? We don't know. So there's some of the interests that we need to go through them and be able to identify some of the gray areas that we could look at. Okay? Any other question, or we move on?
Apart from blaming you,
Yes, I know Sumit wants to blame me. And yes, I'll take the blame, but I also want to recognize that we needed at least to reach here to set a platform for us to.
No, these are great questions that they have put, But then, what if we had presented that, they might have removed from the list. The first question says, what is the impact of biofortified? In his presentation, which he is going to present, it's clear that NIPN is not looking at impact, because to do the impact evaluation, you need to collect primary data, and you need to have a different design. But here we are talking about only data analysis of existing data.
Yes.
And using that, you can't answer those questions. Yes. So that's why we have to filter those questions.
We are going to do the filtering. But one thing which came from this presentation, Mr. Sumit, is already agriculture is implementing their own project in the 15 districts on that. Meaning they have to evaluate this project from their own donor. This evaluation, as it's being done within the sector itself, this data could be relevant to NIPN to look at as a small component of data, which we could also look at. So I think some cases we may not use secondary data only to measure impact, but would be interested in the evaluation report that comes from the Ministry of Agriculture. And we could actually work with you to refine the methodology that gives us a sample that we can extrapolate, maybe in some other regions and all that. But we don't know as of now. But in the park, those who sit in the Policy Advisory Committee, they have more work to look at through this. Okay?
Yeah, I want also to applaud this group, and particularly when looking at the relevant policy questions. I'm particularly interested in number 3, which, if you leave it as that, then the answer would be yes or no, and that will not be really a relevant policy question. But I like the ingredient there, because they are interested in looking at the research. The different research for feeding children about 6 months, and I think there are quite a number of things we want to understand from that particular question number 3. Not just asking about the database, but about what constitutes those research, and getting to know how many children really are benefiting from those kind of research. And maybe the effect of those different research of these children above 6 months would be a very good policy question. But if you leave it as that is there a database of the different research, say yes or no, and I stop.
Okay. Yes.
Just a small comment here, because this was something like, you know, I provoked them, that group, when I was like, you know, facilitating that group. The idea, doctor, is, you know, I was asking that group that do we have the documentation of local recipes for children in this country? Because if you want to improve the complementary feeding practices, because that is something very poor in this country, you need to understand first what are the food, complementary food that a household cook in different regions of this country. Now, then that would link whether those ingredients, let's say a region, West Nile region, is making some recipe which uses maize, which uses like I don't know, fish powder, or which uses different like, you know, ingredient. Now, all those food groups, do they produce locally, or do they like, you know, purchase from the market? So I see the agriculture linkage from the production perspective, from the like, you know. So maybe it's right that maybe that question could be refined, but the idea is to have like, you know, how best we can inform the complementary feeding practices related programming in this country. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we're on track. I still believe we're on the right track. If we are going to do another exercise beyond this, we'll get even better refined questions.
At Ministry of Health, we agree that World AIDS Day is a very good opportunity to